being featured in the linking ring to America's Got Talent to even setting records for Guinness Book of World Records. Everybody please welcome Louie Fox. Louie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. All the way from my daughter's bedroom, also known as my studio.
And where are you from?
I live in Seattle. I'm originally from Virginia. I was born in Virginia, grew up in Minnesota, and live in Seattle.
Wow, so you've been to two extremes and the middle.
Yeah, well, yeah, it kind of was I say it was like an 18-year cross across the country.
Nice.
We moved away from Virginia when I was a baby, and I haven't been back there until January, and I was there. And my mom sent me the address of the house that I was born in, so I went to the house.
Oh, there you go.
And I remember a picture of me sitting on the porch as a baby, so I went to recreate this picture. So I sit down, I go to take the picture, and a dude opens the door. He's like, "What are you doing on my porch?" Like, "I was born here. I came into the world here." And he goes, "If you don't get off my porch, you're gonna leave the world here."
That's funny. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your passion is in magic? What do you love about magic?
All right, so I'm a comedy magician. I'm a magician that does comedy, or I came up in comedy clubs when I was 18 or 21 years old. So that's where I really cut my teeth and started developing my style, was in comedy clubs. But in my heart, I'm a card guy. That's it. In my soul, I'm a close-up guy that does stand-up comedy magic to pay the bills. I happen to be okay at that as well. But then I have weird hobbies too, like I collect oddities. So you can't see it right now, but there's a chupacabra right there. I've got like a brain over there. So I collect oddities, and then I hand make bullwhips, which is something I learned to do from the guy who made the ones for Indiana Jones. He taught me how to do those, and I make them for shows around the world and for performers. So a lot of magicians actually use my whips in their show. And like I was in Shanghai, I went to Disneyland with my family in Shanghai, and we were at a stunt show, and I nudged my wife. I'm like, "I think I made those." My dog's right outside the door squeaking a toy.
Mine's underneath me.
I didn't know if you could hear it or not.
Yeah, I heard it.
But then I'm like, that's the wonders of working at home. But then I'm like, I nudged my wife. I'm like, "I'm pretty sure I made those whips." She's like, "How would you know? They all look the same." I'm like, I had to make 23 whips in a week. I know those whips. I made those. So I text the guy I make them for, who produces stunt shows from China. And he's like, "Yep, those are yours." I'm like, "Cool."
That's cool.
I just spent $18 to confirm those were mine.
So you say you're a card guy at heart, or a close-up guy at heart.
Yeah.
Tell me what you love about close-up.
Well, one of the things I love is that I can just practice it. Like, to practice comedy routines really need to be practiced in front of people. You can't get your rhythm right without an audience there. I can practice a card slide all day. That's the thing. Like right now, let me take out a deck of cards. We'll hit the close-up. Like I'm playing with just the stupidest thing, which is super high. I'm doing a pass for a color change with a card palm to get an extra one. Like, why would I do that? There's really no reason for me to do that.
Well, there is a reason, because you love it. You love.
Yeah, that's the reason. There's no other reason. If it was a trick, the easier way to do would just be palm off a block, drop some, drop another. You do the same thing.
In this new age of Zoom shows and everything else, have you done any Zoom shows yet?
Yeah, I do a bunch of Zoom shows. And there are a few ways I do them. Me and a buddy, my buddy he's a comedy juggler. His name's Matt Baker. We do a variety show that we host, which I like the most. It's called the Odd and Offbeat Variety Show. It's kind of a spin-off of our podcast, which is called the Odd and Offbeat Podcast. Okay. But it's what I love about hosting it is I'm not carrying the show. We're not carrying the show. There's two of us, but we have to write 15 minutes of material for it. So it's 10 up front, and then we both do a short bit in the middle. So we have to essentially write a monologue. And so we have to build props and do bits, and it's a lot of fun to do, and it challenges me in a way I normally don't. Because as a normal comedy performer, I go on stage, I do the same thing over and over and over again. But now doing it almost in a TV format, like a late night format, you spend all this time getting it ready and you do it once and then it's done.
Kind of brings me back to what we were just talking about a minute ago, about not having an audience. So you're doing Zoom shows. How do you get yourself in that mindset to be able to do that without an audience?
Well, there are a couple ways to do it. First of all, I talk to people in the gallery. So I have gallery view. If it's my show or if I have the option to do that, it's always I can see them. Sometimes you do stuff through a webinar where you can't see them. But I also, like, for the variety show, I've got me, my buddy, and then we have a producer. So there's always someone else in the room with me. And at that point, my goal is to make that person laugh. If I can make that person laugh, I'm doing great. And that's their goal. Like, so my daughter who produces my show, or my buddy Matt who produces my show, they both know my show. So nothing that's normally in the show is going to make them laugh.
Right.
What's going to make them laugh is when I call out that teacher who's grading homework on Zoom. Like I did an evening show and there's a lady grading papers. So, but then we get into this, we unmuted her and we had a cool conversation. It was fun. But, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm glad my show is so exciting. You're grading papers? And that's how I get that, like, in the now in the show. I think a live show should be live. It should be anything that can happen. A lot of people do like canned virtual shows, and I don't believe in that because you just lose the spontaneity of it being now. I'm going to show you two versions. I'm going to show you a live version, and then I will, I think I have some video of a version that is not live. And I'll explain kind of the difference between the two. So, whoops, let me pick that one up. All right. 3 dice. Dice number 1, dice number 2, dice number 3. If I take, let's see, we'll start this one here. If I squeeze it, it's gone. What? Oh man, you know where it goes? Under the cup. Ooh, that's dice. I guess that was number 2. We'll take dice number 1. Once again, if I squeeze it, what? Can you guess where it went? Spoiler alert. Under the cup. That's dice number 2. Hot dang. All right. Dice number 3. Once again, if I squeeze it, where could it be? Under the cup like that. All 3 dice. All right, we'll do it this way. Dice number 1 in my hand. Dice number 2 in my hand. Dice number 3 goes over here in my pocket. How many does that leave in my hand? Oh, it's all 3. What? I know. All right. So we go dice number 1. We go dice number 2. Dice number 3. All 3 disappear. You know where they go, right? All 3 go under the cup like that. Oh my goodness. All right. So dice 1, dice 2, dice 3, all 3 disappear. You know where they go, right, Jamie?
Underneath the cup.
Under the cup like that. Boom. Now that's not the neat one though. The neat one's there. Shabam!
That was good.
So that's how I would do it with people. I mean, obviously I'd banter more. I was kind of plowing through it.
Mm-hmm.
But with the problem with loading the big load, I always see it. I've never there's one I know when he does it, but I can't see it. And that's Dan Fleshman has a load he calls the Fleshman Flash, which sounds gross, but it's a seated load for his cups and balls, which I know when it happens, I see him do it, but my brain can't comprehend how he does it so fast. Well, so I put together once in, I think April, like after we were home for a little bit, I wanted a version of this trick that withstand rewinding, so you don't see me load the cup.
Right.
So I'm going to play a quick video. It's like 40 seconds of the same trick, but designed for the web. Hey, I'm Louie. The thing uses some dice. 3 dice. Dice number 1, if I squeeze it, it disappears. It goes under the cup. That's dice number 1. Second one, little squeeze. Goes under the cup like that. That's dice number 2. Third one, boop, you know where it goes. That's dice number 3. So 1 goes in my hand, 2 goes in my hand, 1 in my pocket. How many does that leave in my hand? That gives me
Let's try it again. 1 in the hand, 2 in the hand, 1 in the pocket. How many does that leave in my hand? None. That's because they're all under the cup like that, all 3. Now, I'll tell you how I do it. There's more than 3 dice. There's this one, this one, this one, but there is a secret 4th dice you don't know about, and that's that one there.
So it's very similar, but you could rewind that all day. You'll never see me sneak the big one in.
No, you don't see it. No, I knew when you were doing it, but no, you didn't see it, and that was good because I was looking for it.
Yeah,
I like the when you vanished all 3. It's a moment I wasn't expecting. So when it was nothing, it caught me off guard. It was good. I liked it.
well, thank you. Yeah, but that's like one of the things that a lot of magicians don't understand the difference between a live virtual show and a pre-record. You can take chances in a pre-record because you can do it 10 times.
But when I go to make a YouTube tutorial on a double lift, it just looks so horrible. It's just, you're not really performing. You're just like kind of muddling through it. So if you had to say, what would you say is your favorite trick?
My favorite trick would be well, I mean, it's always whatever I'm working on is my favorite at the time. But my favorite trick has always been the shell game.
Yeah. Okay, you were talking about this earlier too.
Yeah. So it's my favorite. I love it. It's something I got into when I was a kid. I got a set of Martin Swindle shells, which are the same shells Mike Rogers uses. And then years later, I got to see Mike Rogers do the shells, which was amazing.
I do have some shells. I've got some, actually they're gold shells and a silver pea, and I use them for a long time. And I used to be able to get like probably a 4-inch sponge ball into them, which is very difficult to do. They're not very big. But I found a method that I could get it crushed well enough that it would stay long enough to reveal it.
And you don't have like the floating shell trick.
No, you don't have anything. It doesn't move. It's kind of brilliant if you ask me.
That's great. Well, one thing I'm super proud of is I've come up with, I think, 4 original shell game things. For something so old, you really don't see new stuff pop out. So that's something I'm super proud of. Like, everyone understands the shell game. That's what's great about this. So uses a little ball. How this works, I'm going to mix them around. You have to tell me where the ball is, okay?
Okay.
So it goes underneath the middle shell. What is your guess? 1, 2, or 3?
3.
3 over here on the end. It's underneath the middle shell. Oh, so sorry. All right. We'll try it again. Middle shell. Where is it?
3.
1, 2, 3. It's underneath the middle shell again. I'm trying to help you out. There's a little pattern forming, okay? All right. I'm going to make it easier to follow. Okay? What's the guess? 1, 2, or 3?
2.
Do you want to change your mind? I would recommend
1.
It's not here. It's not here. Guess what? Oh, you lost.
You swindled me.
You know what? These shells aren't shells. If you look close, they're actually solid.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you have a guess where the pea could be?
Under the shot glass?
Under the shot glass. But you'll notice the shot glass is also solid.
Oh, geez. All right, so I know you got a demonstration for us.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got.
Okay, so right now we are in the no contact world, and what people are doing now is very different from what we used to be doing for interaction with people. So people are trying to do things with coins, and it's stuff that happens through the screen. So I have 4 coins. I have 2 nickels and 2 pennies. So go ahead and line yours up like me. Perfect. So it goes nickel, penny, nickel, penny.
Yep.
Or penny, nickel. That. All right. So I'm not going to look. I'm going to close my eyes. I'll just turn your monitor off, okay?
Okay.
And I want you to touch one of those.
Okay.
Have you done that? Okay. And what you're going to do is you are going to spell the name of the other coin that you're not touching. So if you're touching a nickel, you're going to spell penny. If you're touching penny, you're going to spell nickel. Okay. And you're going to move 1 for each letter. So let's say, look, watch me. So I'm touching the penny right now. So I would spell nickel. I would go N-I-C-K-E-L. You can move forward or backwards. You just can't go like this.
Okay.
All right? So jump 1 for each letter.
All right. So P-E-N-N-Y.
Perfect. Now what's going to happen is you are going to spell the one that you are on. So if you're on the penny, you'll spell penny. If you're on the nickel, you'll spell nickel.
So P-E-N-N-Y.
All right, so you know what coin you're on.
Yes.
Don't tell me. All right, so you could be on, and go ahead, pick them all up, put them in your hand. You could have a nickel. You could have a penny. You could have a penny. You could have a nickel. You could have any of those 4 coins. I don't know what you have. Okay. All right. I want you to reach in. You can turn your camera on. I have 1 coin in my hand. Lift up the coin that you ended up on. I have a nickel in my hand.
I do have a nickel.
You do have a nickel? You know what? You really had no choice because there are no other coins.
Nice.
So, what it is, essentially, it's one of those do as I do tricks. The problem where most magicians stop is they go through the Jim Steinmeier impossibility books. And the whole focus of those books is on self-working, essentially puzzles that do a magic trick. People forget the magic trick. So if we go through all this procedure and I tell you, you're touching Florida or whatever, everyone's like, if I just did that, the exact same thing would happen. And they're right. So it needs a magical payoff. So right. This was my way. As far as I know, it's my original counting sequence to force the nickel. And as far as I know, this is an original gaff as well. So what you need, I have what's called a 21 set trick. So what that is, that's a bunch of nesting coins. It's a nickel that has a nickel on the back that nest together. Okay. And inside the back nickel, there's a penny and a dime. That's the 21 cent trick. So you can buy those at any magic shop. However, for this trick, you will need what I have called the 12 cent trick. So it's a 21 cent trick, except instead of the dime, it has a second penny.
Okay.
So how I got this is I bought a diamond penny set as well. And then I separate, so the diamond penny is an insert that's a dime on one side, a penny on one side, on the other. Right. But it's smaller than the diameter of a normal penny, the insert is. So I separated those two. So now I have a penny that nests inside a penny, that nests inside a nickel, that will nest inside a nickel. For the sequence, for the force, if the coins alternate, all you have to do is have them touch one. So when I do this, I have people put them on their hand and kind of tilt their hand back so no one can see. And I bring a little bag full of pennies and nickels. I'm like, grab 2 pennies, grab 2 nickels, line them up like this. All right, don't let me see. Don't let anyone else see. And then they spell their thing to themselves. So whatever you touch, if you spell the opposite, so if I'm touching the nickel and I spell penny, I go P-E-N-N-Y, you'll end up on a penny. No matter how you do it, it's just math. Okay. If you start on the penny and spell nickel, N-I-C-K-E-L, no matter where it is, you'll end up on the penny. Then the second time, they spell what they're touching. So now we're touching the penny, Penny. You'll end up on a nickel every time.
Very clever.
So now what I'm doing is I just arrange the coins on my palm. Let's see if I can get closer to the camera and do this. So they sit on my palm like this. So they're in order of size. So the smallest penny is closest to my wrist, and that will slide underneath the slightly bigger penny that will slide underneath the slightly bigger nickel.
That makes sense.
Now, I need to flip the bottom three 180 degrees. So how I do that is as I pick up the coins, I just slide them all, the bottom two, under the nickel. And they're sitting on I don't know what this part of the base of my fingers. So as I then go to pick them up, I just push down on opposite ends of the nickel and penny, and that will make them come up like a teepee and nest together.
Very nicely done. Yep. That works great.
So then you make a fist, you have them do that. So now you have a situation where everyone's put a nickel on the table, everyone's holding coins, and you have this vanish.
That's a nice vanish too.
Yeah. Because you're 100% clean. There's no heat on that because everyone, first of all, who would have 4 coins that fit together for a dopey trick?
No, nobody. It seems excessive.
Yeah. So that's kind of my contribution to the do as I do when you're at home and I'm here sort of trick.
That's a well thought out trick that uses an old gimmick in a great way.
Yeah, it uses essentially 2 old gimmicks, but yeah.
2 old gimmicks.
What's funny is all the magicians have seen it. Even there are a lot of magicians. I'm like, how do we bust apart a diamond penny insert? My kind of workshop group that we do it. And they're like, I don't know. When they saw it, got them. And they're like, I helped you make that gimmick.
Nice.
And I still got them with it. It's just a great moment, and it's so clean, and it's surprising as well. And there's not too much procedure.
And it ends with a wow moment.
Yeah, and that's right. Like I said, that's what most of these are missing, is that wow moment.
So what do you think other magicians should take from this?
Well, my thing is, and something that changed my life was I heard a quote from Mel Brooks that goes, "Go past crowd pleasing into real comedy." So we need to apply this to magic. How do we apply this to magic? All right, so go past crowd pleasing into real magic. Now, I don't mean like real magic. I mean into art. What is art? How do you go? Like the 21-cent trick where you just put a bunch of coins in, mindlessly take one out of your hand, and they're gone. That's crowd pleasing. Doesn't take it a step. There's never a reason to take out the nickel. I found a reason to take the nickel out of your hand. Go past crowd pleasing. Take it that next step. What's that next step?
Okay, so there's a few things I wanted to talk about. First, well, let's talk about your show. You got what is it called? The one-man sideshow?
Yeah, so my show is called the one-man sideshow. The reason it's called that is I don't just do magic in it. I have a bunch of weird skills that I do as well. So I do bull whipping in it. I do hand shadow puppets. I do soap bubble figures. And while it's not traditionally sideshow, it is within the umbrella of sideshow what I do. A lot of sideshow purists don't like me using the name. And how I came up with the name was my wife was like, use the name Sideshow, one-man sideshow. And I'm like, well, I don't really do sideshow. I don't swallow swords. I don't, put rat traps on my nipples. Nothing like that. So me and a buddy, my buddy who I do the podcast with, went to a bar and we asked the bartender, we're like, what's a sideshow? She goes, jugglers and magicians. I'm like, boom. I was like, sword swallowers? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, we're in. So and that kind of it sells that I'm doing more than just magic tricks.
Right. It's a whole entertainment
extravaganza. It's more skills than just that. And it's also like when you're a magician, I think you should go out and you should do magic. You can be funny and do magic, but you should do magic and it should be good. So when I start out and I do 3 minutes of jokes up front before the show starts, it's not weird.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. or when I come out and, you know, do something weird up front, it's not weird. It's
So
not out of place.
what's your ideal audience?
So my core market is I work fairs. I perform at fairs. And that's like May through October typically is when I work that. So that this year in 2020, when we're recording this, that did not happen at all. I lost my entire season. My first one was May 20th, I think was my first day to work, or March 20th. And that got, of course, wiped out. And then, you know, we're still in what we're in as we record this in October. So my season was 0. But what I love about those shows is you're judged on the whole, not a show. I do love going out and working in a theater where you're judged on the show and doing the show. But you have a lot more freedom to play and create on a fairground doing 3 shows a day for 7 days than you do one show at the Pantages Theater for 1,500 people.
Right. I do magic for free at fairs. Anytime there's people around, I'm always entertaining. Anytime I get a chance to practice some stuff, even if I don't have any kind of routine set up, I can, you know, bust through 15 or 20 minutes of just made up stuff.
Yeah, no, Jet, and that's the fun stuff to play. Like in my show, my pre-show is all the material I'm working on, and then the show is kind of finished stuff. But what happens over time is the stuff in the pre-show starts to move into the show. and then the older routines move out. Usually it's the more prop heavy routines tend to get phased out.
I like your personality in the videos that I watched. I watched quite a few of them yesterday.
Thank you.
And you've got energy, you're happy, you're smiling, you're into it.
That's the key. And I don't smile enough. The amount of people, that's like the one piece of advice. Well, okay, 2 pieces of advice. If someone was starting out, I'd be like, smile. No, you think you're smiling, you're not smiling. Smile. And the other one is learn to say yes. Everyone like wants to make money. But you got to go out and learn your crap. You got to go out and just whatever crappy gig calls, you say yes because you've been doing it a year. You know, you got to go learn how to deal with the crappy gigs to crush at the good gigs, because you can crush at the good gigs once you've learned to crush at the crappy gigs. But that's also me coming up through the comedy open mic system as well.
Yeah, there's a big difference there. It depends on where you live. Not everybody has places like that they can go and do that.
Correct. But there's always, you'll get that call for that charity and they go, it's good exposure. And that's fine. Go do it. Like, don't poop on it. You know what? You're winning because you're getting stage time, and you probably suck if you've only been doing it a year. So you're winning.
Okay, so here's your chance to plug yourself. What do you got going on? Do you got anything to sell? Do you have a website? What do you got going on?
I have a daily magic blog. It lives at magicshow.tips, and I write every day on that. So you can get my thoughts on magic. You can see previews of stuff I'm working on. You can see stuff, kind of what's pissing me off in magic or what I think is awesome. So you see a little bit, or what I'm, you know, if I have an appearance like on Masters of Illusion, I promote it there as well. So yeah, magicshow.tips is my daily blog. I've been writing. I used to write. I write every day, and this is something I've been writing for years, for probably a decade, but it was just in a Google Doc. So one day I decided to put it in blog form. So I've been doing it, I want to say, for about 2 years now. So that's 700 posts. So there's a lot of stuff on there.
Well, Louie, I want to thank you for being on the show. I had a really good time.
It was a blast.
You're high energy and very, very entertaining. I also want to thank everybody for watching. If you enjoyed it and you got some value out of it, please consider hitting like and subscribe. This has been The Best Magicians You Have Never Heard Of with Louie Fox, and now you've heard of him.